Welcome back to the Real Estate Den, episode 21. Today we've got Frank and Patrick joining us today. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Fantastic. Thanks, Megan.
Great. I'm so excited for this episode today. We have, I think we were talking at least over 50 years combined experience between these two gentlemen in front of us. We're talking from everything from mentorship to residential sales, to investing, to wholesaling, to politics, to lawyer. Like this is going to be a fun episode. So we'll just get right into it. Frank, tell us a little bit about you, where you live, where you work, and kind of what your focus is right now.
So thank you, Megan. I appreciate being here. I'm based out of the Atlanta, Georgia market, and we've spent 15 plus years dealing with all things residential real estate regarding flips, new construction, a lot on new construction. We've done rentals, short-term, long-term. Didn't really get too much into the midterm, and we've done plenty of wholesaling over the years. We are investing in Southeastern markets primarily. That's our focus. We like the Florida market. We like the Carolinas, and we might look at some other places that are fun away from the Southeast, but the Southeast is our comfort zone. Interestingly enough, before the show, we were talking about opportunity, and, there really is a lot of opportunity. Our market is growing to over 6 million people, and it's projected to be at 8 million in the next 16 years. We'll see if that happens, but, there's never a lack of inventory or a lack of houses, but really are we evolving? And one thing I mentioned is I do a little bit of coaching, and I always tell anybody I coach, your first job is not to be a flipper, a builder, a landlord, any of that. The number one thing you got to do is learn to be great at acquisitions. Because if you're great at acquisitions, you can do whatever you want. So
Great. Patrick, tell us a little bit about you, where you are, and what your focus is right now.
So I am from Massachusetts, from a city south of Boston, city of Presidents, Quincy, Massachusetts, the home of John and John Quincy Adams. I have a storied career, I guess, going back in real estate for about 30 years. As we chatted earlier, prior to the show starting, I'm one of those guys that started old-fashioned with cassette tapes about 30 years ago, listening to Carlton Sheets on a late-night infomercial and learning how to cut ads out of the back of newspapers and starting to follow real estate that way and looking for motivated sellers. And so I started real estate back in the 90s. And got involved at the same time in politics as well. And one of the things that sparked my interest in off-market strategies, which has been my niche for 30 years, was being on the city council. And actually, one of the pet peeves I had as a local representative for 6 years in my neighborhood, my community, was blighted properties and vacant homes, broken windows, high grass, people not shoveling their snow. We noted the code violations all over our city. And so I was more of an advocate for fixing those to try to bring them back onto the tax rolls. But at the same time, it became kind of wow, this could actually be a real profitable venture for me if I could get into the off-market strategy market. So I started that way and I haven't looked back. I've been doing off-market properties for, like I said, for the last 25, 30 years. We got all kinds of strategies. I'm an attorney now. I also am a real estate broker, and I'm also a coach. And we have a real estate community I've started online as well as in person here in Quincy. And I really love giving value back to people, especially new people getting involved or folks that are in the business that are looking to shift their strategies. And as I mentioned before, too, is I shifted as well because I started out as a real estate agent looking for kind of that first income. And really had a sour taste in my mouth because of a bad mentor, a bad broker that I worked for, and doing cold calling and spraying and praying kind of marketing techniques, which are awful. It really left a bad taste in my mouth. So I started out as an agent, got out of that game, became an investor, and now I have my broker's license. So I'm helping younger agents get involved in the game now too. So it's really a rewarding kind of career. And, I think Frank agrees too, that it's an opportunity to really to make a real great income for yourself and your family. But also, my attitude is always, how can I give back and how can I get more people into the game? And it's been great.
That's great. What is one piece of advice what's your go-to, one thing, if you had 3 minutes with someone, aspiring investor, real estate agent in an elevator, what would you tell them? Frank, go ahead and start.
Well, like I said, piggybacking off what I was saying, I would say master the game of acquisitions. You make your money when you buy. That's a phrase we've all heard, but it's not one that I've seen heeded to. And why does that happen? A lot of people, they either got money burning a hole in their pocket, or they just got to do a deal. Like it's like, if I don't do a deal, oh my gosh. And it's even worse because sometimes they'll go get a coach, or they'll pay for a training, and it's like, I've spent this money, I've invested, and you just basically buy right into a bad situation. And finding good deals takes patience. After we've done hundreds of deals at this point, and I agree with Patrick, the vast majority are off market. We had that shindig of on market during the last crash, but otherwise by and large off market. But after you've done a ton of deals at all sorts of price points, you don't get so excited about doing a deal. I'm going to be disciplined and get the right deal. And so when I coach people, I'm like, get master acquisitions and learn what good looks like.
I love that.
Really clear on what good looks like. Now it's easier to be disciplined. And now when that deal that's an hour and a half from your house, that the numbers look so good, and everybody, oh yeah, the contractors will happily drive over there, until they actually have to start driving. And there's some, discipline and knowing what good looks like in the game of acquisitions changes the scope of the entire business.
What does good look like? Is it per deal, or is that something sort of more blanket in general?
It's usually a mix. Obviously we have and we'll take a simple example like fix and flip. People say 65, 70% ARV minus repaired. Like, we've all heard that formula, but if I live on the West Coast, you'll never buy anything at that. Because the deals are $1 million. Out there, you could buy at 90% minus repair and be great. Because the profit on a bad day is 150, 200 grand. So there is an element of market centric mixed with the general advice that you hear. But furthermore, what are your goals? What are your goals? A story I've shared many times, it was actually birthed during the pandemic, during the Clubhouse days, when we're all on we're all on audio chats all day. But there was a lady, real quickly, she wanted financial freedom, generational wealth, the classic buzz phrases.
Right.
And she's like, I want to build houses to do Airbnb. Okay. How many deals have you done? 0. Have you ever been involved with new construction? No. Have you ever been involved with rentals? No. Hospitality? No. What are you wanting to do again? Financial freedom. Okay, so what you just said is, she didn't know what she didn't know, right? And what you don't know in real estate can and will hurt, and it hurts immensely, is you basically are picking 2 complete career paths, 2 full-time career paths toward your goal. So when we broke it down and got clear, what we discovered is all she really wanted was enough money coming in passively so that her expenses were taken care of and she could go see her family. So she didn't need $1 million a year. She didn't need to take care of the great grandchild. I mean, if she could, that's great, but that really wasn't that big a priority. And all of a sudden it became, instead of this massive thing, it's like, oh, so I can learn to buy rental properties now. And I don't need to have a lot of money. I was like, well, you do need to have some. When people say no money, I always like, no, you do need some. But, with creative techniques, you can get into rental properties inexpensively. And Patrick was sharing that earlier when he bought his home. He was talking about with the lease option. It's a great strategy and it works. So again, it's how do we buy? But before you buy anything, be crystal clear. How do I get crystal clear? Get a coach. You are in business, get a coach. Do not do business without a coach. So
Great advice. Patrick, what is your number one golden? You had 3 minutes in an elevator to share it with somebody.
And I've had the opportunity to say this numerous times to especially new folks that are getting involved in real estate. First and foremost, I always tell them, no matter who they are, get your real estate license. Whether or not you're actually going to be an agent ever, doesn't matter. Get your real estate license. It's the foundational exercise that'll get you going. At the same time, networking. Get involved in a local RIA without question. At the RIA, your number one goal shouldn't be finding a deal. And like as Frank said, no, not at this. find a mentor, find a coach. You will find somebody that syncs with you at those networking meetings. So, get your real estate license, network, buy part, find a coach. And then the third thing that I'd say is paramount to anything that we do in the real estate business. If you want to be successful, whether it's actively being a real estate agent or a broker or an investor, you've got to learn the art of marketing. In every business that we're in, I'm a lawyer, I'm a politician, I'm a real estate investor, I'm a broker. All four of those, I also need to be a master marketer in terms of being successful. So you need how to market yourself, your business, and what your message is. And if you get those three strategies in place, you're off to the races.
What are some good ways to learn marketing? If you hear that, you're like, okay, yeah, marketing, but like, what are there any books that you would recommend looking into, podcasts, where should they begin?
There are so many great gurus out there. I mean, Russell Brunson, without question, is kind of the key person. He just bought out Dan Kennedy's collection. Dan Kennedy is Mr. Marketer. So if you just research Dan Kennedy or Russell Brunson, guaranteed you're going to learn more than you'll ever be able to use. But there's so many podcasts out there. I mean, Amy Porterfield talks about how to create list generation. You've got Susie Moore, who talks about public relations. There's so many out there, but I'd say start with Dan. If you just do Dan Kennedy, you'll have more information than you'll know what to do with over the next 10 years.
I love that. I think that's the biggest issue right now, and with like real estate agents, especially when they're trying to like get going, is there's so much. They have a hard time like narrowing down and focusing. I have to read 50 books. No, read one book really well and really like learn and
Yep.
kind of, the depth versus the width. What if you could go back to the beginning of your real estate careers and tell yourself one thing, what would it be, Frank?
So I would actually piggyback off what Patrick was saying. I would say you need to, before you worry too much about buying houses, learn how to be a marketer, and not just a real estate marketer, because real estate is nothing more than a vehicle. And most real estate is taught in a bubble. And what I've now looked, when I started getting business coaching, I started realizing real estate's really not as big as we tend to make it in our little bubble. The world of business is massive. In fact, it's worldwide. And there's a lot of business that has nothing to do with real estate. And so I would say to myself, going back, not only learn marketing, but get your business fundamentals learned. Because the business fundamentals, real estate just sits on top of it. It's just a vehicle. But if we can understand business, now we can pivot, not just within real estate, but other aspects as well. One of the best tips I got from my business coach was go buy a magazine like a Forbes or something and look at how other people market. And you take the ideas, because these are companies that are spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, leverage their knowledge, look at their product. How can I apply that ad, that idea, those beautiful full color ads on these magazines that we all know? How can I take that idea and apply it to a real estate marketing piece? And because I've already researched the psychology, so you can leverage off and you can get some amazing ideas from that, rather than just putting, your typical "we buy houses" sign or something like that. And it's amazing.
Are you telling me that those pre-template marketing things aren't the best marketing strategy? And I'm talking crap on myself, because that's all I really tend to post. But
well, we're not going to say they don't work, because they do. But the reality is the marketing world is a lot larger, massively larger,
right,
than, and there's nothing wrong with the companies creating those templates, right, and putting them out there, or the pre-built website, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing unique about it either.
right.
Whereas you've got these companies that'll put these ads, and I'm using a magazine as an example, because we all know who Forbes magazine is. People have put a lot of money and thought about it. I mean, think of like the Super Bowl. People spend God knows how much money for 15, 30 seconds once a year.
And I've never seen a Super Bowl ad say, "Please send me your email so I can send you a monthly neighborhood update directly to your inbox." I have never seen a Super Bowl ad that said that.
No, you probably won't either. But those are the ads we talk about. I mean, there's like entire articles about just the Super Bowl ads, forget the game. So it behooves us to study these companies that spend massive amounts of money because they can, to try these different things and say, what can I glean from that? And so, I should, and that's not my idea. I got that from one of my business coaches. And I was like, that was powerful stuff. And it really gives you insights. And not to mention, and I've learned this, and I run a podcast as well, and I love interviewing non-real estate people because they have such different insights from what we're more used to hearing inside our circles. And there's just a lot of power and wisdom to be gleaned from that.
Love that. Patrick, what would be one thing you would tell yourself at the beginning of your career?
Well, back in the day, I was always a great student. So I always did well academically. So even when I bought my first real estate course and actually became a real estate agent, I was good at doing that. That was easy. I mentioned that I got a really lousy deal with partnering up with a real estate broker who wasn't willing to teach me anything. And so my emphasis, and I mentioned it before, you need to find that mentor or coach. You really do. It's kind of like, and I'll date myself here being a Star Wars fan. You got to find your Obi-Wan Kenobi that's going to guide you and take you out of your comfort zone. Luke Skywalker hanging out on Tatooine, being a farmer and like saying, someday I want to go to the stars. Someday I'll do it, but after the next harvest. And it takes a mentor. It takes somebody to get you out of your comfort zone and teach you the ways of how you can do this. And you got to be patient. That first deal isn't going to come overnight. And sometimes that was my problem, is that, you do get kind of just jacked up on like a guru, so to speak, that says, oh, you can make, millions in real estate. Well, it takes time. And you really, as much as you can thirst and thrive on the educational piece, as I did, I knew more about real estate when I was 22 years old than many people combined. Exactly. But I didn't know how to do anything with it. So it's similar to going to law school. I did 3 years at law school, academically crushed it. But there was nobody at law school that taught me how to be a lawyer. I needed to find a coach, a mentor to do that. So the real estate game is the same way. Any business is the same way. And that's why I talk about that networking piece. Get your education, but get involved in a network. You will find a mentor that meets your personality trait too. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I have a different style than other people. I sometimes can be a little bit over the top with people, which is fine. But there's other people that are a little bit more low key, more focused on, whatever the strategies would be. Get a mentor that works with you, similar to, buying a pair of shoes. Find the shoe that fits you correctly. And that mentor can bring you to the next level of the game. No doubt about it. I wish I had found somebody early on in my career to do that. It took me probably 10 years before I felt really successful in real estate. And I could have shortened that window probably to 6 months to a year if I had the right person working with me.
What are some good things to look for in a mentor? Because you've touched on having this bad experience with a bad mentor, and I think we've all, like, everybody right now is thinking about a bad mentor. Like, I'm like, everybody's had them in their lives, right? A bad leader. How do you find someone that aligns with you? Like, what kind of questions are you asking? What are you kind of soul searching for yourself? How do you do that?
Well, I'd say number one is, you want to find somebody that's actually done real estate deals, that actually has been out in the game for longer than probably I'd say you need somebody that's at least probably 5 to 10 years experience, that's been out there, that's done their thing. You want to interview somebody and actually see what their style would be. For instance, with my students, I do a lot of hands holding with people, and we do a boots on the ground. I have them follow me like a good apprenticeship program. I think that's the kind of stuff that I'd be asking if I was a new student. What kind of, how are you going to get me from where I am today to where I need to be? And Frank talked about earlier about goal setting. A good mentor is going to ask that question right out of the gate. Where do you see yourself a year from now in the real estate business? Do you want to close 10 deals, 50 deals? Do you want to actively get involved, in terms of being an agent? How many listings do you want? And then you test the temperature of people in terms of their marketing background, what your expectations of me are. So you really have to find that mentor that fits with your strategies and your goals. Because if you tell me that you want to do one deal the next year, you want to do things part-time, I'm going to approach that differently with that student versus somebody that says, I want to be, a millionaire in a year from now. Okay, we got a different strategy going there. So you got to find a coach that works with you and ask a lot of questions. And certainly, as Frank said, goal setting's everything. If you have your goals set and you find a mentor that actually can help you fulfill the goals. And that's a great question to ask a mentor. Hey, look, here are my goals. How do you think you can get me there? And I think that will be the telltale for anybody that's looking to hire a mentor.
Frank, tell us how to find a good mentor.
Yeah, so this one hits hard because I tell people I've always had a coach except for 3 years of my journey. And the 3 years I didn't have one is when all the mistakes happened. And the crazy part is not only did all the mistakes happen, you didn't even realize you were making the mistakes because real estate is a slow moving beast. So you can make a mistake today and not realize it for 6, 12, 18 months. And so when we made mistakes and we did some things that looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, what were we thinking? Well, we weren't. We didn't have a coach. That's why it happens. So, it's easy to get overconfident sometimes, but we have to have that coach. But if I was looking for a mentor, I want a mentor that, of course, has had some success. They're active. But I also want a mentor who's going to not only shoot straight, because I might come to him with, kind of like what Patrick's saying, I might have goals, but the coach or mentor might look at me and go, yeah, if you're going to apply that, you're going to have to, just give me some reality, because it may not be realistic. But the other piece is I want a coach or mentor that's been to hell and back. Because if all I do is get a coach or mentor who's enjoyed success, how are you going to help me when I royally screw up? And this is why I go nuts when I see the reality is we live in a world where a lot of people are becoming coaches quickly. Well, how many deals have you done? 10, 15? Well, have you ever lost money on a deal? No. How are you going to help me if I end up in a loss situation? You can't, because you can't relate. So I want someone that they've sat at the pinnacle, they've done it a long time, but they also have some battle scars. And they know that it doesn't always go perfectly. I had the opportunity to sit in a room with a lot of very successful, high net worth people a few years back. And one of the constant themes I heard between some of these people was they could not appreciate the success they've had and the ability to help others had they not had a very dark period in their career. So if all you've enjoyed is success, your time is probably coming, and I don't want to be around when it happens, because it's inevitable. That's life. At some point, that dark period's going to come. So I want someone that's already had their dark period, and they've had the success, and they've learned how to appreciate it, because they're going to give me that real insight based on years of success, numerous failures, and the appreciation behind it. So it's the maturity. When I had my worst moment in real estate a few years back, I had a coach, and I called him up, and I'm like, I can't believe blah, blah, blah. And I gave them the whole spiel. And this is what he said. It's just part of the training. And he just kept right on going like it was nothing. I almost felt blown off. He's like, it's just part of the training. And I said to him, did you hear what I just said? Like, did you just hear anything I just said? Because I was trying to take him back. And this is what his response. Yeah, but did you hear what I just said? And it was like, oh, and that's why you pay them. That's why you pay the big bucks. Because what he was teaching me was, if you have a bad moment in business, you need to learn right away. And it's hard. We're not saying it's easy, because we're human. A bad moment is still nothing more than a moment. It is not a definition of who you are. It does not change you into some bad person because you made a mistake. In the moment, it's hard to learn, and it was hard for me to learn. I'm human. But I had to learn that moment did not define me. I'm human. I made some mistakes. I said, and those mistakes happened as a result of not having coaching for a period. But he was the right answer at the right time to get me on track and say, dude, it's just part of the training. This happens when you get trained. Any sport, the star player sometimes goes down. No problem. How do we get back up and keep moving? It's just part of the training.
I love that.
No doubt.
Just
Frank, I agree totally with that. It's like we always do like to highlight, you know, it's like watching ESPN. It's the highlights of all the good stuff that goes on, the touchdowns, the passes, the home runs. But yeah, I mean, if there's another question to ask a potential coach or a mentor, tell me about your darkest days and how you get out of it. And I do tell those stories to my students as well. I mean, I've battled through the bankruptcies, I've battled through foreclosures, I battled through an investment that I was supposed to make an $80,000 profit. I ended up eating $14,000. But the reason why I didn't eat more is because the coach that I had at the time actually flew in from Ohio. When I finally called him up, and I should have called him earlier, but I called him up because my pride had the best of me. I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. And when I finally called him up and I said, I'm screwed on this deal. I have no idea how to get out of it. I have no idea how I'm gonna survive it. He got on a plane and flew to Boston and spent 3 days with me getting that deal back on track.
Wow.
And I'll be forever grateful for Josh Cantwell and his team out of Ohio for getting me back on track. And that just sent a message to me that, like, that's what a coach is supposed to be about. In your worst times, they're supposed to be able to get boots on the ground and say, I'll get you back up onto the field again. So all good stuff, Frank.
I love that, Patrick. I love it. Love it.
The quote is escaping me, but like, you can't be successful until you failed a lot. And if you want to be good at something, you have to show up ready to F it up many times.
Yeah.
Like you kind of just, you have to do it. I'm a perpetual never read instructions person, you know? So like, I love to do that. I love to just build the parachute off of the plane, but it's hard to do. But yeah, absolutely. I love what great strategies to helping find a mentor and like to really sort of pick, because like, I mean, we're in real estate. Yeah, everybody's a coach these days. Like and everybody became a coach with their experience when rates were 3% odd. But yeah, that's all really, really good stuff. So both of you gentlemen are in coaching now. How often do you think you should be meeting with a mentor? Like what does that typically look like?
It's, we're all familiar with the typical structure is once a week, right? Like that's the typical. I will tell you the best coaching I ever did was not that. I had the opportunity, and I could have done it for 365, but I did it for 270 days straight. And by then I got the message. I had to check in with my coach every day, and it started as 90 days and then it evolved. So imagine every single, now you pay extra for this, you're taking their time every day.
Extra for the extra ass whooping.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. So, but every day I had to report. Here's what I got done. Here was the challenge. Here's what I could be better at. I had to rate myself every day. This went on for 9 months. And I will tell you, without question, the best coaching. Now, a lot of people won't do it for 2 reasons. A, you're going to pay a premium, because not only did I have to report in, but on most days he would report back. This was good. This was not good. This is what you need to do next. So it really was daily coaching a good bit of the time. Some days it was just good job, or some days it was light, but the majority of the days it was, I'm going to comment on what you just told me, and here's what you need to do next, or to fix, or whatever it may be. And you put a question in there or something like that. But but it's a premium to do that. But here's the other reason why a lot of people won't do it is because the idea of being accountable every single day. By the way, there were no holidays off. Christmas was not a day off. There were no days off. None. Now, was I working on Christmas Day all day on real estate? No. But he taught me something that I never forgot was, even on the days that are your day off, maybe you take Sundays off, maybe you take holidays off or a weekend away, whatever, your brain is always going. So you can still come up with ideas. You can still come up with things. Your brain is still thinking about things, even though it's your day off. Inevitably, at some point, you're going to come up with maybe you're just in the shower, as for me, a lot of great ideas will come in the shower, right? Yeah, right. It happens to all of us, I think. And so it's so that's what I'd have to report in. Okay, it's Christmas. All right, well, you probably weren't making offers today, but what ideas came up? What ideas popped in your head? What did that present that you got maybe triggered an idea for a moment in time? So it's a level of accountability that was amazing. But what it really also taught me was how to be accountable to myself. And that's the ultimate accountability, because that's where it's got to start.
Yeah, for me, I have a bunch of coaches right now, and I think that just comes with age and knowing how valuable they are. From a real estate perspective, I mean, I have a personal coach that deals with my mental health and my physical being, but I've got a marketing coach. I've got another business coach that I work with. I get somebody that teaches me on speaking and how to get on stages. But from a real estate perspective too, I mean, and I've had plenty of those people like, Than Merrill back in the day, people that teach me the basics. But because I've been involved for so long, my coaches now are kind of my peers in the real estate market. And we have a mastermind program here. There's 15 of us that get together on a quarterly basis, but we also talk weekly. But from a quarterly, we have like these deep dive summits, and we get together and run issues together in terms of all of our business dealings, from acquisition to closing to marketing. But we get together quarterly to really do deep dives on that stuff. But there's no aspect of my life that isn't without a coach anyways. And a lot of those coaches are, and Frank talked about the word accountable. A lot of people run away from that word. I run towards it, because accountability equals success. And you're holding yourself accountable. And I need coaches to do that, because without somebody kind of prodding me and pushing me along, whether it's when I was a kid and I had a teacher that would be prodding me along, or a parent. My parents were great at kind of pushing me along the way. I mean, I have a tendency to go the lazy route. I'd hang out on the beach all day if I possibly could, if nobody was going to hold me accountable. So having those people in place to make sure that you are moving in the direction that you've already professed what you want to be, because it's very difficult. That anybody that can do it themselves, all the best to you. I haven't really met that person yet, but to have a partner in a coach or a mentor is a godsend for all of us. And so I deal with it every day, and it's become kind of my lifestyle. I don't even call them a coach or a mentor anymore. They've become my friends and my partners in life. And so find those people and stick with them if you're getting the results.
I love all those answers. What a great episode. All right, switching gears. What do you do in the morning? Do you have any specific morning routines or rituals that you do to get yourself in the zone, Frank?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know the importance of the morning routine, or maybe we don't, but I mean, we all hear about that. If you're an entrepreneur, it's one of those where, do you get up at 3, 4, 5? I've tried doing the 3 and 4 thing. That's tough. My body wants to go to 5 o'clock. It just does. I like to exercise early, but I'm kind of weird. I don't like to exercise in the dark. So I've got an exercise space in the house, got the bike, and so forth. And I like for there to be light outside. So I had to give myself permission to tweak the routine so that, all right, I can do some work, I can do some breakfast, then I'll go do some exercise once there's light outside. It's just not as fun in the dark. That's a quirk of mine. But there is a routine, right? At the end of the day, it's a routine. I have my quiet time. I'm a man of faith, so I have my time with God. I pray. I do some reading. I'll do some specific business-related things. I'll do my exercising. And, by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, it's like we've done a lot, right? So, I think that routine is critical, but understand that your routine doesn't necessarily have to look like everyone else's, and experiment till you find something that works for you.
Absolutely. Patrick, what are you doing?
Yeah, totally agree. And then I actually have a fairly disciplined morning routine, which took a while to get to, but I call it my core 4. It's a power hour that usually ends up being 2 hours long. But I've been able to gamify the experience, which helps me out, because in my weekly review on Sunday mornings, I see how many points I got. So I have this thing called the core 4, and it centers around 4 principles: body, being, balance, and business. And so each one of those core four principles gets broken down into 2. So I get a half a point for everything I do. So within body, I get my body moving. I need to at least do 10 minutes of physical exercise. That could be on my Peloton, going out in the neighborhood for a quick walk, doing some jumping jacks, push-ups. I have to at least get the body moving. So I get a half a point every day for doing that. My other half a point is drink a green smoothie, veggie drink. I have this, I do athletic greens. So I get a half a point for doing a green smoothie every day. I haven't missed my green smoothie in 7 years, at least, since I started doing it. So if I get my body done, I get 1 point. Then I go to my being. So being is all about meditation and memoirs. I sometimes will just meditate on my app. Sometimes I'll do some Bible reading or the Bhagavad Gita or any kind of different ritual texts in terms of spirituality. I get that routine for about 10, 15 minutes, but then I have to do memoirs on it. I have to then do what we call it a stack program. I ask myself a series of questions on what I just read and what it means to me and how do I apply it to my other areas of my life. So if I do both of those things, all right, I get a half point for my meditation and half point for my memoirs. I'm up to 2 points. Then I do balance. Balance is a half a point that I connect with my wife, my partner. I get a half a point for that. Now that could be as simple as sending a quick text. I get my wife coffee every morning in bed because I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. She's not up till 7. So that I get a half a point almost guaranteed every day, provided I'm in the house. If I'm on the road, I send her a coffee image by text with a little love handle on it. I get a half a point every day with that, with my wife. The other half a point is my kids. That's my posterity. So if I can get that done, I'm up to 3 points. And the final core day is the business. Business is not about like what I'm doing in real estate. Or I need to focus on what am I going to focus on this week, for instance. Maybe it's marketing, and I'm going to read a marketing book. I need to do 10 minutes of either that, reading a book, listening to a podcast, going on a YouTube channel, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. And then I have to then share that with people. So it's not good enough that I study. I then have to share it. And so half a point for studying it, half a point for posting it on Facebook, shooting out an email, writing a blog, and then sharing it with other people, giving the value away. So if I do all 4 of those things, I get my 4 points. It's very rare I can get my full 28 points, unfortunately, every week. So
do you get anything when you hit a certain amount of points? Like do you know how many points you have now? Are you like in the millions? Like where are we at with the
points? God, yeah, I haven't added them up over the course of time, but it's a telltale sign every Sunday. So when I do my weekly general's tent on Sunday morning, that's the first thing I look at is my core 4. And I can tell guaranteed whether or not I've had a good week or a bad week is if I've hit, how many points did I hit on my core 4? Did I get my 28 points? And if I didn't, if I'm somewhere in like the teens, and then I further go down my general's tent and I realize, I didn't hit any of these targets. That's because I didn't start the day off right. I didn't get to my core 4. And I find that the weeks that I'm in the 20s, mid 20s towards 28, those are my success weeks. So it works for me. I do mine in the morning. I have friends of mine that are also on this core 4 routine. Some of them do it in the middle of the day. Sometimes they do it late in the afternoon. So and as Frank mentioned, whatever your routine is that works for you, experiment with a bunch of stuff. Miracle Morning is a great book if anybody wants to read that. I read it. I adopted some of that strategy. Find a routine that works for you and then stick with it, because you will find success with it. But you got to do it's a daily discipline. And you will, if you follow me anywhere on Facebook or on Instagram, my hashtag is generally hashtag no days off, hashtag get it done. So,
Patrick, one of the things that I love about what you just shared is it's a daily discipline and it's a daily routine. And you were talking about the good weeks and the bad weeks. And one of the things that's great about daily accountability is if you truly rate yourself daily, like I did it my way, you did it your way, but effectively we're doing the same thing.
Correct.
We see those trends because it's easy to convince ourselves, oh, this was this, this was that. But when you're literally tracking daily, you start seeing the trend, you start seeing the habits, and you start seeing how something can start going off track and not even realize it until you do it 4 or 5 days in a row. And you're like, well, shoot, wait a minute. What have I been doing? Yep. So that trending is powerful. I love it.
And you have to get that reset. I just got back from Australia. I spent 2 weeks there. I went over for a family wedding. And it was a struggle because I was off my routine. I was, I didn't have to get up every morning because I had no real responsibility other than where are we touring today. But it was something that I had to do every day to get up and get back into the game of things. And I feel better getting back from Australia now because I didn't really lose time. I don't need a vacation from the vacation. I'm consistently on my game.
Great. Well, if people want to connect with you, listeners that have heard all these wonderful this wonderful conversation today, where can they find you, Frank?
So yeah, I'm on all the main social media things. So, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. I have my own website with my name and so forth. So I'm pretty easy to find. But so if you don't connect with me on social media, I'm also a bit old school. I like the phone. You're welcome to call or text. And if you call, actually leave a voicemail. I know that's radical today for some people, but
Double old school. Whoa.
yeah, leave what we actually do check our voicemail. Our number is 678-408-2228. It works. It's why it's there. So
That'll get you,
feel
Frank.
so yeah, I mean, so I'm pretty easy to find. You Google me, I'm not hard. So
Great. Patrick, where can we find you?
So I'm a big fan of Google. And if you Google, you may probably see some political stuff that comes up, which is all good because I'm the sheriff of my county now. I've been in politics for 30 years as well as real estate. So you may find that. But you also, if you Google Patrick McDermott, you're also probably going to come up with Olivia Newton-John's former boyfriend. So Google is going to throw you off if you're trying to find out me. So definitely on the social media front, I have I'm pretty much found very easily on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I haven't played the TikTok game at all. And I am launching a YouTube channel at some point, but I'm not on there yet. But I'm also an old school guy, old school and new school. So my cell phone is readily available for people to text me or call, leave a voicemail, 617-594-0640. Love chatting with people, especially people who are interested in getting involved in real estate. Or if you're new school, you can go to chatwithpat.org, chatwithpat.org, and you can set an appointment. I'll give you a 15-minute consultation.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And we will see you next time.